Story 1. When my wife or daughter yells for me 5 seconds after I sit down on the couch, I swear there is a sensor or something. Story 2. The sound of styrofoam rubbing together hurts my ears and makes me shudder. Story 3. The sound of people chewing food or gum loudly, biting on silverware, or sucking their teeth. Story 4. If not, it's that "Oh No No No" song on TikTok, which my wife watches at full volume while I'm trying to go to sleep. Story 5. Noisy chewing, loud breathing, and squealing children make me want to snap. Story 6. This is not a topical issue. It is God's honest truth that Donald Trump's voice has bothered me for nearly a decade. Cannot stand it. It is not the content of the speech, which is also terrible. It is the sound of the words. Story 7. A whining child, not a crying baby. Babies can't help it. That's how they are. I am talking about children who whine and cry in public while their parents ignore them, neither correcting them nor removing them from the situation. Story 8. When someone snorts a giant ball of snot back into their nose, for Christ's sake, use a tissue. Story 9. Children making a fake crying sound. Parents screaming at children in a high-pitched, screeching tone that is impossible to ignore. Story 10. I hate it when someone watches TikTok at full volume. Pisses me off. Story 11. I can't actually hear the bass of music, but I can feel it when I'm trying to sleep. Even with a pillow over my head, I still notice it. Story 12. A sustained high-pitched E sound is the sound I hear when my tinnitus occurs. Story 13. People drag their feet as they walk or stomp for no reason. Story 14. Those idiots who make crappy YouTube videos then waste half of the video's time asking you in an annoying, childlike voice to hit the like button, subscribe, and smash the notification bell. Story 15. Sirens are an absolutely horrific sound for me. I cannot hear them without crying unless I put on headphones immediately. Story 16. The sound of cutlery, especially forks, scraping across a plate or against teeth is enough to make me want to put my head through a wall. Story 17. Fart sounds produced to mimic other noises. Also the mouth noises Mr. Education tries to make during eating scenes in movies. Story 18. When people drink from an almost empty cup and it makes that obnoxious slurping noise, it drives me crazy. Story 19. I live in a small apartment, and my neighbor plays a full drum kit every day at random times for varying lengths of time. It drives me absolutely insane. Story 20. Babies and children screaming, especially when they are somewhere they probably should not be, like in a pub at 9:30 in the evening on a Tuesday. Story 21. Jim Carrey screaming inside a cargo van decorated to look like a shaggy dog. Story 22. I'm living in a war zone. The worst sound is the pressure wave that warplanes produce. It emits a lot of pressure and I really hate it. We call it jadar. Story 23. The vocal fry of the Kardashians and Jenners is the most grating sound on the planet. Story 24. The most annoying sound in the world. Fork scratching a plate. Story 25. Thumping bass from a nearby house or car just sitting there drives me crazy. If it is only passing by, I am fine, but if I have no idea when it will stop, I become frantic. Story 26. People who speak with vocal fry. Please use your lungs and push some air through. Story 27. Kids are arguing. I love my children, but when they argue, it is awful. Story 28. Those motherfuckers sell stuff from their cars and use speakers to play a recorded message or song loudly. Thank God I don't have a gun. Story 29. Loud car engines sound like the vehicle is struggling with basic tasks. I really dislike that noise. Story 30. The exhaust fan over the stovetop. I just cannot, but I have to. Story 31. The crinkling of plastic bags, especially chip bags or bags of shredded cheese. Story 32. The sound of silverware scraping against a plate. I can't handle it. Story 33. As an autistic person, there are many sounds that bother me, but the one I hate most is chalk. It doesn't matter what it sounds like. Any of them makes me want to scream like Alexi Leho. I'm tired of covering my ears whenever my teacher writes, and I dread being forced to write with chalk. Story 34. My cat, in her litter box, buries her gifts so much that she always scratches the plastic bottom. That squick sound is really annoying. Story 35. Car horns, mufflers, stereo subwoofers, and babies crying in public are the worst noises. Story 36. My downstairs housemate coughs every time he smokes a bowl. It sounds like he is trying to cough up a lung. He says his father taught him you have to cough every time you take a toke. He smokes 5 to 6 times a day, and it drives me batty. Story 37. My brother's partner's voice drives me crazy. He sounds like a valley girl mixed with a philosophy professor, and listening to him grates on me. He's the same age as I am, 30, but tries to give me life advice as if I'm 16. He gets cuteness aggression toward me. If I do something cute, he says he'll punch me in the face. I have no idea, man. Story 38. People clipping their nails. Scissors are okay, but nail clippers are awful. I'm okay with the sound when I do it, just not when other people do. Story 39. Shrieking children, not crying or screaming, but that horrendous shriek. I just can't deal. Story 40. Whistling, humming, tapping, unnecessary noisemaking. I have been diagnosed with misophonia. Story 41. Whining, whether from dogs, voices, or children, immediately provokes anger. Story 42. That outrageously loud, high-pitched shriek that children make for fun. A fork to the eye would be more pleasant. Story 43. I hate the stupid laugh tracks they add to YouTube shorts. I do not even bother subscribing because creators use them in most of their shorts. It drives me mad. Story 44. My kid is whining. Sounds like Ia. Story 45. Any prolonged sounds that go on for too long. Here in the United Kingdom, we have had a spate of advertisements doing this, which makes me irrationally angry. Story 46. People rubbing an inflated balloon with their fingers make a high-pitched, rubbery screech that drives me crazy. Story 47. In public places like a library, a restaurant, or on public transportation, someone will randomly start rapping or singing along to the song on their headphones, usually a crappy song, and do a poor job at it. It's like, shut the fuck up. Karaoke is different, by the way. You know what you are getting into when you go to a karaoke night. Story 48. Whining sounds of men. Please let me see it just once. Story 49. The sound of someone blaming another person for everything is unbearable. That tone in people's voices when they do it, especially when they refuse to take responsibility for their own actions and merely shower the other person with blame, is worse than the action itself. That particular pitch in their voices is far worse than what they are accusing someone of doing. I think many people know what I'm talking about here. Story 50. I do not know why, but I really hate the sound of leaf blowers. It is not just because they are loud. There is something more specific about the sound. Hearing one makes me irrationally angry. Story 51. The sound of someone eating chips in a commercial is like they find someone with the most cavernous, resonant mouth possible and instruct them to close their lips slowly while pulverizing the chip with their teeth. They then repeat it a dozen times. Story 52. Nail filing or scraping a plate with metal utensils, causing that screeching sound. Story 53. The sound of a metal utensil scraping a plate or bowl makes my teeth feel like they are about to shatter. Story 54. Dogs licking themselves, especially their paws, fills me with rage and annoyance. I do not know why. Story 55. That is all I have to say. Story 56. I have a voice in my head that is constantly arguing with me. Story 57. Many sounds are annoying, but the one that makes me cringe and shudder, even when I imagine it, is fingernails scraping paper. Story 58. The dental scaler makes me want to fold my ears all the way into my skull. Story 59. Religious fundamentalists are cheering because they get to ruin everyone's lives. Story 60. My favorite sound is my 3-year-old daughter's voice. In the morning when she wakes up, it is the sweetest thing. By 8 p.m., I imagine putting tape over her mouth. Story 61. Crying children are hard to sleep through. They kept me up all night once at the hospital. It was horrible. Story 62. Cars that rev their engines whenever they accelerate slightly. Is your penis so tiny that you have to make noise whenever your grand touring car moves? What happened to just going to the grocery store without being noticed? Story 63. Loud barking dogs always startle me and leave me feeling irritated. Dogs are great, but there are too many people in my neighborhood with anxious, barely trained dogs. Story 64. Loud crowds make me feel somewhat nauseous because I have sensory processing disorder. Story 65. Gas-powered leaf blowers are noisy when you're trying to work from home. Story 66. The lawn mower is used specifically on a Wednesday when I am off work. Story 67. The space-age sound that all the stupid electric cars make. Story 68. I am bothered by repetitive noises such as water dripping, dogs licking, people clicking pens, or fingers or feet tapping and similar sounds. I have a coworker who sniffs about every 20 seconds. He is not sick. It is just a habit, and I have to leave the break room when he comes in for lunch. Story 69. The neighbor's dog barked constantly all day. Story 70. Artificial intelligence voices that read stories from Reddit in oddly satisfying YouTube shorts when you are with family and your mom has one playing. Story 71. Loud motorbikes in traffic when I am trying to listen to the birds. Story 72. I do not even use TikTok, but I know that fucking laugh all too well from secondhand exposure. Story 73. The goddamn car alarm that beeps and wails constantly outside your door never works the way it is supposed to. Yet we all have to listen to it every time someone gets in their car and sets it off. Story 74. Babies and young children are screaming and crying. I am pregnant. Story 75. The high-pitched screech of chalk like scratching at your very nerves. Story 76. Screeching sounds like a metal chair being dragged on a tile floor. Story 77. Sniffling drives me insane. It's not that hard to just blow your nose. Story 78. People with sinus issues who make that weird noise when they clear their itchy throats. I feel bad for being annoyed by it. Story 79. I don't understand how people don't go deaf from their spoiled dogs that won't shut the fuck up at night when I'm trying to sleep. I can't believe they can even sleep while their own dogs bark. Of course, they never teach the dogs to stay calm at night, and everyone else has to put up with a dog no one wanted but the neighbor. Story 80. That high-pitched frequency young children reach when they scream feels like a metal spike driven into my head. Story 81. Parents of fussy children who do not take action. Story 82. That air horn sound that hype-based disc jockeys such as disc jockey Khaled and his cronies use. I get that you want to hype people, but why do you have to give everyone within a 10-mile radius permanent tinnitus or make the dance floor sound like a strip club? Story 83. Children screaming, any noise they make, and dogs barking. Then again, I am neurodivergent, so maybe it is just me. Story 84. A toddler is squealing and shrieking. I avoid being around toddlers because I don't look good in prison orange jumpsuits. Story 85. Happy screaming and screeching like children playing or people on rides. Be quiet. Story 86. That ringing sound in your ears is especially bothersome because it occurs all day, every day with varying intensity for me. Story 87. The stupid fucking Vans ad that appeared right above this post sounded like someone forced dial-up and TV static to have a baby and then let it scratch on a synthesizer. Story 88. The sound of chewing, especially with the mouth open, bothers me. I am pretty sure I have misophonia. Story 89. Food and candy wrappers. I will physically leave the room if possible every time. They can actually cause me to break things if I am already very angry, laughing my ass off. Story 90. And yet I just kept going, reading all the comments, becoming increasingly annoyed. Phew, back to my homepage. That was enough of that. Story 91. People chew with their mouths open and smack their lips. Story 92. Styrofoam squeaking against itself. It is the audio embodiment of grabbing a glass that seems to grab back. Story 93. The sound of people chewing loudly, especially crunching sounds. The female artificial intelligence voice sounds like dozens of needles in my brain. The fucking smashing pumpkins sound like a sentient kazoo. Story 94. It's annoying. I don't know why, but I am really scared of firework-like noises. Gunshots, thunder, balloons popping, fireworks, and other similar sounds. Story 95. I have misophonia, so almost every sound annoys me. Story 96. Bert Kreischer's high-pitched, squealing laugh instantly ruins a podcast. Story 97. The bathroom fan sound makes me feel like my brain is at 110% and being rattled. Story 98. I cannot open external links. Please paste the text you want processed. If you want acronyms expanded, say whether to replace each acronym with its full form, recommended, or expand on first occurrence only. I will then correct spelling, expand acronyms, remove repetition and special characters, fix punctuation, remove links, and return only the clean text suitable for Azure text-to-speech. Story 99. Wet feet walking in Crocs. Dogs bathing and grooming themselves. Children singing in commercials. Story 100. It is construction work, actually any loud noise. I work from home, and my neighbor is redoing her apartment. I can't stand it. So loud it feels like it's inside my apartment. This happened a lot during the pandemic. Anyway, she respects the allowed hours, so there is nothing I can do about it except cry. Story 101. Either the sound of saliva or someone crunching something. Story 102. The sound of metal on metal or forks scraping against teeth or plates is unpleasant. Story 103.1. A person's voice that sounds like they are talking through their nose. 2. A person who breathes through their mouth. 3. Loud snoring. 4. Shrieking children in a store. 5. A dog that barks incessantly. I leave immediately. Story 104. Scratching chalk on a blackboard makes your teeth sensitive. Story 105. I have misophonia, so it affects me a lot. Laugh out loud. Repetitive, high-pitched noises send me into a rage. If the repetition is at a lower frequency, I can tolerate it longer. Story 106. My air compressor is so bad I feel like it was intentionally designed that way. Story 107. When my cat finds a piece of crinkly plastic and starts chewing it at 5 a.m. Story 108. My dad plays with the 2 rolls of loose quarters in his pocket every time. Story 109. The sound of a fork scraping against a glass plate or of a cat chewing on plastic. Story 110. I am a bit sad this was not the top comment. Story 111. I work in a building where welding is performed. The sound of the hammers used for welding is annoying. Story 112. The sound you make when you walk across a carpet with dry feet. Story 113. The sound of people sucking their teeth bothers me. My mother did it all the time while I was growing up, and it is like nails on a chalkboard. I also dislike children screeching and the sound of chewing or smacking gum or food. Story 114. Any sounds coming from phone speakers, especially loud, obnoxious, squeaky laughs that play in videos your parents watch. Story 115. Perhaps this. Story 116. Pour water like those office water dispensers. If it is not an even flow and makes a glugging noise, I feel like I am having an aneurysm from that sound. Story 117. The voice popular kids use when talking to someone they consider inferior, for example a nerd, a quiet kid, or me. We're like besties, right? Guys, this is my bestie. Why don't you ever speak? I'll fling your fake tan, clumpy eyelashes, and Air Force shoes across the room. Story 118. People are talking in the car. The resonance is extremely annoying. Story 119. Those videos of people losing their tempers when things do not go their way are staged. Do you expect me to believe you set up the phone and then reacted genuinely? It is performative social media clout chasing. Story 120. Teenagers playing music on their phones on a bus, or anyone playing audio loudly on public transport. Story 121. People's lips smacking while they eat or chew loudly with their mouths open. Story 122. Some asshole is playing their music loudly in public, like on the bus. Story 123. The sound of someone making fart noises with their mouth is not just annoying. It hurts my ears and leaves a kind of itching feeling in them for several moments afterward. Story 124. Someone's mouth is open and chewing. Babies are screaming. Dogs are barking repeatedly. Story 125. Parents who make threats to their children and never follow through are so annoying when out in public. Story 126. People chewing loudly, though when my dog does it, it's super cute. Story 127. I feel bad about someone else's hiccups because they cannot control them, but they make me want to rip my hair out. Story 128. Any small rattle or buzz from something vibrating in my car makes me want to tear the car apart until I find the source of the noise. Story 129. The default iPhone text tone played constantly. I had to listen to it at work for 3 years because they would not let us change any settings on the phones or disable notifications. Story 130. Would I be the weird one for saying that the sound of my phone notification bothers me? Imagine you are resting and then suddenly you hear multiple ting sounds. Other people chewing loudly is annoying, but this is another thing that bothers me. Story 131. Straight-piped cars and trucks on the highway. Motorcycles excluded. I get it, revving makes you feel tough. Mom still loves you, little one. But on the highway, it's a loud, constant drone. Don't you get migraines from it? I did it when I was 19. The noise eventually drove me nuts. Story 132. People chewing. Light clicking and buzzing. Animals licking themselves. Crying babies. Story 133. As much as I hate to admit it, my daughter's cries overwhelm me. I have to check myself because it stresses me out and I zone out. I think she realizes it affects me, so she emits a high-pitched shriek. Come on. I'm sorry, you cannot chew on the charging cord. I swear that every time she cries, I go through the 5 stages of grief. Story 134. The cold, crunchy scrape when you pull out a freezer drawer makes your whole body cringe uncontrollably. Story 135. Recently, there have been fireworks around Bonfire Night on November 5th in the United Kingdom. Anyone would think Bonfire Night lasted a whole fortnight. From before Halloween until tonight, there has been the loudest fireworks noise I have ever heard. People setting them off on different days because of work schedules and so on are not the problem. Setting off what can only be classed as display fireworks at 1:30 in the morning is completely unacceptable. Story 136. The car's air conditioning is on full blast. When it is turned back down, my relief is palpable. Story 137. Sniffling and loud eating with the mouth open and finger licking gross me out. Story 138. A droplet of water dripping consistently somewhere in the house while you are trying to sleep. Story 139. Lately, I can hear my coworker who sits next to me sharing details of her life and asking for validation for every task. Story 140. I got really into the Love Island series recently, and there is so much autonomous sensory meridian response face sucking. Why don't they mute that shit? Story 141. My 2-year-old is wailing. She is the size of my 6-year-old. She does not have control of her voice yet, which I am desperately working on. When she has a typical 2-year-old meltdown, it is loud and instantly annoys me to the point that I have to step away and just breathe. It is so loud that our neighbors have asked if there is an emergency, and we cannot stay in hotels because there is an 80% chance the front desk will call us. It instantly freezes me and makes me clench my teeth. Story 142. The sound of my wife saying, "What did you order now from Amazon?" Story 143. I think it should be illegal to include the sound of babies crying in movies, television shows, and advertisements. It is the last sound I want to hear when I am trying to relax at the end of the day. It drives me absolutely insane. Story 144. Stomach gurgling bothers me. I get very triggered by it, even though I know people cannot help it. It drives me up the wall. Story 145. Electrical issues. Power outlets and lights are a nightmare. Whistling, snorting, and mastication send tingles down my spine. Story 146. The construction crew is using a damn jackhammer to replace the sidewalks while I am trying to sleep in. Story 147. A coworker who has been in the same department on and off for a few years produces many sounds that bother me. She crunches ice. She screams about being cold after eating the ice, then has hot flashes and frantically moves files. sometimes dropping them to turn on a fan. She chews and slurps her food and frequently smacks her lips and makes tongue sounds. Right after drinking, she smacks her lips with a yummy, approving sound. She has loud coughing fits. She pounds the keyboard and mouse so hard they break weakly, and her documents are not proofed. She frequently clears her throat loudly and then sniffs mucus back into her sinuses. She scratches herself loudly so the skin folds make noise. She cracks her knuckles and other joints. She bites, chips, and peels her nails. Watching it makes the sound seem louder. The best part is that she is deaf. I never knew I had these sensitivity issues, and now I am looking for another job. She cannot be moved to another department because of her performance. She has been with the company the longest, and the leaders are poor at managing group dynamics, although the work gets done. Story 148. I told my husband the sound was him sucking on his vape. He quit. Story 149. Shushing, that shhh whispery hiss, annoys me when I hear it repeatedly in a noisy setting or when I am the one being shushed. Story 150. I can tolerate crunchy foods like chips, but I cannot tolerate the sound of people chewing soft foods. I would rather be haunted by Chucky the doll than hear that. Story 151. It could be a morbidly obese man who becomes out of breath while walking to the kitchen and back to the couch, or a whiny man who complains about anything, including having to shower. I hate fat people. Story 152. When multiple televisions and screens produce a cacophony of competing sounds that blend into a distracting noise. Story 153. There are two scenes in Ace Ventura. When nature calls, that will answer that question, laughing out loud. Story 154. Every morning at around 5 a.m., my cat goes through my bedroom and scratches every piece of paper he can find until I wake up and kick him out of the room. It has been 14 years. Send help. Story 155. Children are screaming. I know children will be children, and I don't mind a few playing in a spirited way around the neighborhood. But those who run and scream or shriek continuously for hours make me want to tear my hair out. Story 156. When I turn up the music in my car and discover a coin or an empty can left in a door pocket, it becomes an annoying rattle with every bass note. You cannot drown it out because the rattle grows louder. Story 157. The sound the global positioning system makes when it is rerouting. I do not know why, but it drives me nuts. Story 158. The sound my car is making right now is causing me a great deal of anxiety. Story 159. Unsupervised children. I swear I'm not anti-children. I live in a townhouse with a shared yard. When a child is out in the yard smashing a giant toy car on the broken trampoline and screaming like a banshee at 8 a.m. on a Saturday, I am fuming. It is not necessarily the sound of the children that annoys me. It is the lack of parenting or respect for neighbors. Story 160. I fucking hate how loud the freezer in my house is, especially when I try to sleep and it starts to buzz. I know it will not stop for at least the next 30 minutes. Story 161. My husband is blowing his nose in the shower like a menace. Story 162. My husband is losing his hearing, so he has his earbuds in and the volume is very high. For me, it is the bleed-through noise I can hear in the other room. It sounds like insects arguing. Story 163. Liquid pouring. Beer commercials love this shit. Fuck you, Samuel Adams. Story 164. The sound of a metal spoon scraping a pot makes my teeth hurt. Story 165. It is now and will forever be a pack of 20 to 25 Harley-Davidson motorcycles, opening the throttle fully and traveling 45 miles per hour in a 25 miles per hour speed zone as they approach and go around the corner of the highway in front of my parents' residence. My uncle and his wife, who lived next door, had to move to escape the sound of this obnoxious behavior. You literally could not carry on a conversation with the person sitting next to you while it was happening. Story 166. The sound of certain pens writing on paper. I don't know the English word for the type of pen I mean. Story 167. I can tune most things out, but if you are being unreasonably fucking loud, it makes me wonder where I am going to hide your corpse. Story 168. I hate the sound of someone scratching those three-dimensional holographic images that are usually in books and bookmarks. I I can already hear it in my head. Story 169. My wife likes watching staged videos of Asian people eating and snatching and hiding each other's food. They often include several instances of the spoken word "what" as a sound effect, which slowly destroy my sanity. Story 170. Car alarms, when they sound and take ages to be turned off, are a form of torture I find uniquely excruciating. Story 171. I find hearing music through the walls to be the most insufferable thing ever. It especially annoys me because you can only hear the bass, so if they are listening to electronic dance music, it is just repetitive thumping. Story 172. Motorcycles, especially Harleys. Fuck those pieces of shit and anyone who owns one. Story 173. The sound of people tapping their acrylic nails against objects in autonomous sensory meridian response videos. Story 174. The sound of leaf blowers is unbearable for me because I have chronic migraine. Story 175. Those autonomous sensory meridian response videos where people whisper and speak too close to the microphone. Story 176. Brooklyn accents, or just about any New York and New Jersey accent, are especially grating when they are loud. I am a quiet Seattle resident, so I find them jarring. No offense to people from there. I know you cannot control how you speak. Story 177. The little yappy motherfucker dog across the way barks at 6:20 every morning like clockwork. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.